关于接地 Grounding 或称 Earthing 对身体健康的好处。其中一位主力提倡者 David Roof 在2010年举办了一个讲座，讲解什么是接地和接地对身体健康的好处，甚至即场替所有观众接地。
One of the things I learned is that I was actually trying to do the impossible, which is getting people to do wheatgrass enemas. And for years of that kind of service, the universe rewarded me with the simplest thing ever. You don't have to leave your seat. You don't have to go anywhere. And this is the most phenomenal discovery that Len and I have ever come across together in the last 10 years that we've been together, working together. So we are actually going to do something that's never been done before, and that is we're going to ground every single person in the first maybe 2/3 of this room.
Hold up, 460 people.
460 people will be grounded.
Yes. And just so everybody knows, this is the actual grounding mechanism. If you want to explain exactly, when this, okay, right here, this little point right here, when this, don't touch it yet, please.
There's one by your seat in case you're wondering.
When this actually touches your skin, Dave's going to explain exactly what happens. So you peel off the sticker. Don't do it yet, though, and it touches your skin.
Okay, so what's going to happen is that we have had the developer of this grounding technology come into this room and actually wire up every seat, 460 seats, almost every seat in this room, and except for the back portions and corners and that kind of a thing. And what's going on is that you are going to actually be able to touch the ground. So electrically, now this wire is connected to a rod that's stuck in the ground outside. And that means that you're going to get electrically connected to the earth. Now you think, well, what could that do? Is that really a big deal? And we're going to find out together that it is a big deal. It's one of the biggest deals ever. And that shoes have been doing a whole lot of damage to us we never suspected. Being in insulated homes with carpets has been damaging us in ways that we never expected. And we're going to find out just how quickly you can remove inflammation and pain from your body. Then, as Len was alluding to, we're going to see it. We're going to see blood normally as we are, which is in shoes running around the world, and then we're going to see what happens when we connect to the earth. Go barefoot, and the only way we can do that in a carpeted room is to connect ourselves electrically this way. We're going to see what that blood looks like in about an hour or so. Does that sound like the best thing ever? So now let's talk about what it means to be grounded and what that looks like. If we had a room filled with oxygen, and the room next door had about 8% oxygen, and we're in there going, ooh. If we opened the door between them, what's going to happen? What happens? Right, it floods in. It's called diffusion. In the plants, it's called osmosis, that everything tries to equal out. And so the oxygen will rush into that room in order to fill that gap, and we'll go, oh. And that's exactly what it's like to go barefoot. As soon as you put your foot on the ground, the electricity rushes into you because in most cases, in fact in all cases, we're deficient in the Earth's electrons or electricity. And therefore, the Earth senses an imbalance, and literally it's like suction. It's just drawn right into you. Over time, because we have various gates that block just the immediate absorption of everything, over time, it increases your negative electrical charge, or you gain more electricity. And that's what this idea is. Anytime you have two conductive objects, two rooms next to each other, that make contact, you open the door, such as your bare feet on the ground, the electrons will flow from the place where they are abundant, remember that room with all the oxygen in it, into the place where they're less abundant. The electrical potential of the two objects will thus equalize, and that's called earthing. That's called grounding. And that's when we come to that place of starting to be connected again to the earth. You ever heard this phrase before? We're disconnected. I feel ungrounded. Or you ground your child. Their behaviors are erratic, crazy. You're grounded. Right? The anxiety, the erratic behavior. We're going to look at some slides here that I believe are going to shock you. And this is the science. And Clint has been responsible, it's been about 30 studies now on this subject. And we're just going to be giving you the cliff notes on all that. Pictures, which is great because you can see the bar graphs, you can see the images, you can see how things change over time when you're grounded. We're going to see the blood, what happens, right? You're going to get to feel that. We're going to see what happens in an hour or two. It's only going to, 20 minutes.
原来讲座的主持人也是一位食日者。
Now, for those of us who are sun gazers in here, anybody into sun gazing? The great immortal practices of sun gazing, one of the things you can really do with this in mind is you sun gaze barefoot wherever you are in the world, wherever that plane deposits you. If Pan Am Airlines delivers you in Tehran, Iran, first thing you do is you get out of that plane, you get barefoot. As soon as that sun sets, you watch that last minute or two barefoot on stone, and you're recalibrated. And that's why I can travel all over the world, and I don't get sick, don't get tired, don't get wiped out, don't get irritable. Well, not.
他解释现代人居住的高楼大厦原来是对身体有害，因为高空对比地面有更大的正电荷，令身体更缺乏负电子。住2楼的人对比住在1楼的人，中风机会已经增多了40%，但接地就可以解决这个问题。
It's the shoe. The rubber-soled shoe is a big factor in this. And then also buildings, first floor, second floor, third floor, fourth floor, fifth. You know what I'm going here to here? 30th floor. That we are so high up in the atmosphere, big problems can develop. 40% more strokes on the second floor than the first floor. Just 2-story house. Because there's a voltage change as you go higher up in the atmosphere. The higher up you are with no ground to connect you to the earth, the more troubles will arise, and the faster, and the worse the inflammation will be.
接地也等同血清肌的功效，使红血球分开。
So we got the blood sample, that's good. Here's what we're going to see in their blood. Here's what's been researched. Gaetano's going to be here. He's the scientist behind this. Pre-grounding, we see the clumping. Post-grounding, instant change of the charge on every cell. The cell is electrical, not chemical. The cell is electrical, not chemical. And therefore, as soon as the electrons are available, boom, the charge comes onto the cell and it's able to produce a zeta potential, which keeps every cell bouncing off of every other cell, but not clumping with every other cell. The clumping is electroplating. It means that there's a deficiency of electrons. Everybody's trying to get together to try to get the oxygen or to get wherever the charge is. Does that make sense? Like, if we weren't all grounded, we'd all be touching each other and clustering up next to each other to try to get to the person who is grounded. So it's like, we want what you got. And that's kind of what happens to our blood. My opinion about this is that this is going to lead to a dramatic change in our longevity.
接地可以让用电脑的人不会受到电脑的电磁波影响。
When you ground yourself, this is a great grounding pad. This is what I have underneath my computer. Right? So my feet are on that. So when that computer is sending its EMFs at me, yep, it blocks it. It shields you because you become part of the earth and it just goes right over you. We're going to show you images of that. So the original medicine.
可以加入人的压力荷尔蒙皮质醇数值恢复正常，帮助改善睡眠数值和减低压力，尤其是平衡女性的荷尔蒙，甚至是甲状腺问题。
Cortisol. Who is familiar with the research on cortisol that's come to light in the last 10 years? That's indicating that these elevated cortisol levels are bringing forth a whole bunch of problems. We've got sleep disorders, hypertension, the whole list is there, autoimmune conditions, erratic glucose levels, blood sugar, erratic behavior, mood disturbances, decreased immune response, and of course, changes in bone density. Watch this. This is a normal 24-hour cortisol profile. So it changes. Just like everything in our body, very important word is in a cascade of circadian rhythms, right? Everything is in a pulsation. Our heart doesn't go boop, right? What does it do? Bup, up, bup, up, bup, up. It's in a rhythm. That rhythm can speed up, bup, up, bup, up, bup, up, bup, up, or it can slow down. Bup, up, bup, up. But it's a rhythm. That's this. Okay, everything is going on like that. Our hormones are like that, all our neurotransmitters. This is a study that was done. It's called The Biological Effects of Grounding the Human Body During Sleep as Measured by Cortisol Secretion and Subjective Reporting of Sleep, Pain, and Stress. Here it is. On your left side, you're going to see 24-hour cortisol secretion profile before grounding and then after. Immediate changes in cortisol levels. Okay, watch this. Mostly affecting females. Most pronounced effects. You're going to see this pattern coming up quite a bit. And the pattern is, as soon as you ground yourself, all your circadian rhythms go to order. As soon as you unground yourself, they go to chaos. And what Clint has theorized, and I think it's accurate, it's been my experience for sure, is that the Earth is a reference point for our circadian rhythms. So here's what the results are indicating. The grounding the human body to the Earth during sleep reduces nighttime levels of cortisol and resynchronizes cortisol hormones to more in alignment with the natural 24-hour rhythm. Changes were most apparent in women. Why do you think that is? Because generally there's more circadian rhythm issues going on in women, right? More hormones, more of a variety of hormones, and women generally can't kind of go against the nature's laws as much as men can. Otherwise, things will come up. Yeast infections come up, things that will throw the female body out of balance faster than men. So that's why it's usually women who show up to health lectures, right? Because you can't get away with the transgressions as much. Now, this has been profound, and actually I was talking with Clint about this yesterday. This has been, or the day before, this has been so profound that it's actually been found if you ground yourself to the earth, you've got to cut your thyroid medication. And there are implications here. So this is something to be very aware of. And we also know with blood thinner medication, as we're going to see, that you got to be also very careful, and you got to work with a physician or someone who can help you to cut back in a way that's appropriate to the new homeostasis that you're going to settle into when you're grounded.
改善所有炎症非常有效。
This buzzword, inflammation, I think it hit Newsweek magazine and Time magazine. It must have been, it was about 6 years ago. Do you remember when that hit? And it's like, okay, now we're on to this whole idea of inflammation. That it appears that the big undertaker that's taken us out, bad problems with the ankles, hips, chronic inflammation, injury, trauma that never goes away, that it's something to do with this inflammation, which just keeps producing an immune response that evolves into constant and chronic pain. Now, I sat down with Clint last night. He said there is no inflammation in nature. Can't exist. That inflammation is a response that's a free radical response, and normally you're touching the ground. Immediately, the electricity of the earth neutralizes all the free radical damage, and you can have no inflammation. Yep, you know where this goes pretty darn quick. It's because we're going to see it. Because there's some folks here who have been in pain for a while, and we're going to see how quickly they go out of pain. There's Time Magazine 2004, so that's 6 years ago, 7 years ago, basically. This is what's been attributed to all this inflammation, all the different conditions, chronic this, chronic that, chronic neck pain. I know there's a lot of people who won't admit it, but who will admit neck pain? Okay, who won't admit anything no matter what I say? Who here will never raise their hand no matter what? Okay, good. Look at it. Look at the list. The relationship between osteoporosis and grounding will be explored, and it's a big one. The relationship between all the different conditions. MS. There was a woman called the other day. What was her issue? It wasn't MS. It was fibromyalgia. Is that on the list? I mean, these are issues that are related to having electricity problems.
可以改善皮肤问题，减低发生肿瘤的机会。
So this is what we're hearing. This is in the media. You've seen it. Chronic inflammation, that's the engine that is really creating this, the aging. It's really associated with aging. I want to put this up here because when you ground yourself, as you've done, there is an instantaneous change in your skin conductance. It's instantaneous. So let's say somebody has a skin issue. What do those look like? Let's name some. Psoriasis, what else? Right? Yep, dermatitis. Yep, seborrhea. You got it. Acne. Rosacea, hives. So all of this stuff is improved immediately, instantly when you ground. It's instantaneous. There's the chart right there. That you can see where it happens. I'm going to point it out. So right there is the moment of grounding. Look at the change. Boom, boom, instant. You can see it over here, folks, if you're on this side. Boom, the instant you ground, your skin conductance changes. That then cascades deeper and deeper. And just from my own research on looking at all the studies that Clint's given me over the years, is I've been able to see that it takes about 10 minutes for the other things to start coming in, because our body's gated. Do you know what I mean by that? It's like we're in a gated community. All those electrons just can't charge in and vandalize the place. Right? Our body's like, okay, hold on. You're going to go through gate 1, skin first, then deeper, second, muscle tissue. Then it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And eventually, if you're paying attention, it starts getting to those deep-seated issues in our organs, in those places deep inside our tissue where there can be positive charges or deficiency of charges, which may be called things like tumors. Excessive growth. So we're starting to see, we're starting to see a relationship between our body's ability to inhibit excessive growth. What's that? I mean, I was just reading up on ovarian cysts. Ovarian cysts come and go with what? Hormone cycles. If the hormone cycle is way out of balance, the grandfather clock is suddenly 30 minutes behind, then all of a sudden a cyst can grow out of control. And the body can't draw it back again because the circadian rhythms are out of balance. What happens then? Well, then we start to develop such large growths that I remember a young girl that I went to school with, she had a gigantic grapefruit-sized cyst removed from her body because her body couldn't bring it back, couldn't reabsorb it because of the circadian rhythm issues. How do we keep that in balance? Just simply walking barefoot, touching the earth, connecting to the earth. There's a revolution coming.
也可以改善一系列的健康问题，令白血球、淋巴球和胆红素等数字恢复正常。
Okay, let's look at some of these images. There's what the study was about. Again, we're looking at markers, delayed onset muscle soreness. We're looking at eosinophils, white blood cell counts, red blood cell counts, etc. So here's white blood cells. Grounded, dramatic decrease, which you can see right here what this means. See that the blue part of the graph there, that line? What's going on there? It means that the white blood cells are ramping up because there's inflammation. But if we're grounded, there's no inflammation, so everything just goes right back down. Look at this here, same type of thing, neutrophils. When we're not grounded, the inflammation is greater, increases. So as we're grounded, draws that right back down. Here we see it again. Look at that. Lymphocytes. What's a lymphocyte? White blood cell again. And boom. Drops when we're grounded. Here it is again. These markers are really important because if we've been studying the name of the game when it comes to cancer, when it comes to aging in general, even cardiovascular disease, pretty much all evidence is pointing to immune system. If we've really been paying attention. It's all pointing, saying, okay, if our immune system is strong enough, we're going to be able to knock out whatever it is. And if our immune system isn't, we're going to be in trouble. Has anybody come to that conclusion from studying the research? It seems to be pointing to that, if we're at that level of understanding. Because like inflammation, okay, that's whatever, but if our immune system is able to deal with the inflammation and what's underneath it, the calcification, it's all going to be cool. But if it's not going to be cool. If our immune system is able to get on top of the tumors, it's going to be okay. If it's not able to, trouble. So we see here that our immune system is activated in a way where we're not crying wolf for 4 days in a row after our, say, cycling tour or whatever it is that we do for our exercise. Okay, look at this right here. Bilirubin levels. Now, bilirubin is the premier antioxidant in your body. It's secreted by your liver. Look at the difference here. Look what's going on. When we're grounded, our bilirubin is dramatically different, meaning our bilirubin is called up and it has to deal with an inflammatory condition. Therefore, it's going to be doing a lot more work than it needs to. As soon as we're grounded, that changes like that. And that's one of the biggest differences that I've seen in the research is on bilirubin. that grounding dramatically changes what the bilirubin is doing in your body.